Hello, welcome to another episode of What Are You Selling with me, David Green. And joining me today to talk about his work is PD Alleva, who is an author of thrillers that are sometimes sci-fi fantasy about alien vampires, and sometimes they are haunting horror novels, sometimes urban fantasy with supernatural themes. But he is very, very prolific. There is a lot of stuff that you have. Yes. Paul, how are you doing today? Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. Having a good day. The weather is perfect. You know, it's nice outside, and I'm doing a podcast talking about books. I mean, what could be better than that?
Exactly. That's the life, isn't it? That's the I say to my wife sometimes, I'm going to go and do a little bit of work. And she's like, are you like talking to people or writing? Which is it? It's not really work, is it? I'm like, so it's something.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly. I'm using my time wisely. That's what I'm doing.
I could be playing video games, right?
That is a definite fact, right? I'd rather be writing my books.
You know, that's funny. Like I used to be I still have an Xbox and everything, and I used to be a huge gamer. And I always had this inkling that I wanted to write. So I was like, I want to write, but I just don't have the time. I don't have the time. And I cut back my video game playing, and I suddenly have the time to publish books.
Well, I got lucky. I used to be, when I was a kid, I was big into Dungeons and Dragons, you know, and I actually wrote my first novel when I was 12, kind of loosely based on Dungeons and Dragons. But I have not played video games since I was 16 years old, because at one time I was playing a game called RBI Baseball, right? If you're older, you probably remember that, RBI Baseball. And the result of that game gave me 16 stitches in my hand, right? So as a result of that, I have never played video games since.
Yeah, I think many people might have similar stories to that, but they kept playing, which was like yeah. I had an older brother who was not as much into gaming as I was, but he was. But we had an N64, so we had GoldenEye, and there was some arguments about some of the results from GoldenEye and Mario Kart as well. Yeah, but it's funny. There's the things that you do to take time. So how about you? I mean, you said there you wrote your first novel when you were 12. So I guess you've always been a big reader and a big and had ambitions to write.
100%. Like I said, so 12 years old, wrote my first novel. I wrote short stories when I was a kid. I used to go, like I would go see a movie like Goonies, case in point, or Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters. And I would go home and like write the novel of the movie, you know, it's just off of memory or whatever, which took 2 pages, you know, for me, it's a full novel at that age. So I've been writing since the creative itch has been there, you know, since I could remember, and always a reader. Literature is like my first love. That is a fact, you know, and I had the honor, you know, of actually having great teachers and great people who influenced me, because other than my mother, no one in my family reads. Right. So I grew up like where I call them, they're all grunts is what I call them. Right. They're electricians. They're the salt of the earth type of people, you know, and they don't read. And I'm growing up, you know, and they're all electricians and, you know, they work with their hands. And I'm like, a wire, you know, what am I supposed to be doing here? You know, I don't get it. So my mom read, and then I had great teachers as well that kind of instilled that love of reading and, you know, nourished it, and, you know. So it's definitely been a great time just reading and getting involved in literature. And I have such a great respect for the written word, and just being a part of the literary community makes me feel good, you know?
Yeah. And so when did you publish your first book?
All right. So first book was published in 2011. And that is a supernatural literary coming of age novel called Indifference. And it is about a misdiagnosed paranoid schizophrenic who figures out during a midnight romp through Manhattan that he actually has the powers to heal other people. And the main character's name is Bishop. And that was my first novel. I call it my first novel. So actually, Rose Volume 2, the Alien Vampire one, is my eighth book published, right? And I always look at the first couple of books that I published are kind of like those like literary gems. And not only that, you could see the eternal optimism coming through in those literary works. And then as you go through life, you know, you kind of get a little bit pessimistic, and what was literary now turns into dark fiction and horror and, you know, sci-fi fantasy series about alien vampires trying to subjugate the human population.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing, just the journey that you take and how far you come, and just as a writer itself, it's really fun.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing as well, isn't it? When you kind of write a little bit more, you kind of explore the kind of, and even if you're doing fantasy or if you're doing horror or whatever, you explore that human condition a little bit more, and you see it with a lot of people that as they write more, their works become a little bit darker, become a little bit. Even people like I'm a big fantasy fan. Even people like Tolkien, like you see how the Lord of the Rings started off as a sequel to The Hobbit.
Yeah.
And it turned into this other thing. And then when he started working on the sequel to Lord of the Rings, which he gave up on, it was like about cults and and all this kind of stuff. Right? Yeah, it's like, man, he went really dark on that.
That he did.
Yeah, so it's funny how that kind of works. So your first one was 2011, and your next one, your latest, is going to be coming out on the 21st of December. So when people are listening and watching this, it is literally up. It's about to come out. It's on there on Amazon. So that is the Rose Volume 2, which is part of the Rose series, sci-fi fantasy thriller. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that series?
All right, fantastic. So Volume 1 came out about a year ago, right? And the gist of what is happening, I'll give you the long and short of it, is the story first takes place immediately after World War III ends, right? So a treaty is signed in the beginning of the Rose Volume 1. And then what's going on afterwards is discovered is that alien vampires who live in Hollow Earth, they've been here for period of time. I don't want to give some spoilers away. There's more books in the work, but they've been here for a period of time living in Hollow Earth. And what they've done is they have conspired with gray aliens and elite human beings to turn the human population into pretty much easily controlled zombies. All right. So the World War III is pretty much a farce, and you'll find that out in book 1 quite quickly. Definitely quickly. It's a farce, and it's all the whole means and the whole purpose behind the war is to get the population into pretty much concentration camps. They're called safety camps in the beginning, and the reason they want them to get them in there is so they could round everybody up and start giving them the pharmaceutical that turns them into zombies. What they're doing is they're using a pharmaceutical that destroys gray matter in the brain. All right. Hence, you know, gray matter is all about planning and stuff like that. So that's going to destroy their gray matter. But they also wanted to transfer through in pregnancy. So anybody born in a new human being born also has this gray matter destruction. But what they do is they kind of mess up, or the doctor kinds of mess up. And what he does is he uses an opiate-based chemistry in the pills. All right. So now it's a new round of pills. And what's happening is when the alien vampires feed on these new blood humans, as they're called, they start to get addicted to this drug. Right. Okay. It's kind of like an opiate addiction. Yeah. Right. And okay, so in the beginning, Volume 1 takes place. There's a safety camp rescue, all right, of this woman called Sandy Cox, who is pregnant by a rebel freedom fighter named Phil. And at this time, Sandy, the human population, have no idea that aliens exist or anything that's going on, right? But this guy, Phil, he's human. He does know. He's part of the underground human rebellion. He went to go save her from the safety camp for reasons that when you read, you'll find out, right? So no spoilers. And he's trying to take her to Atlanta to meet with his superior by the name of Robin Winter. All right. But they get caught and she gets taken to an underground compound. All right. And when this underground compound, you have gray aliens there, you have alien vampires there, and then you have some elite humans as well. And then Phil needs to go into this underground compound to pretty much rescue her and take her away. And there's a whole backstory with Sandy. She's not as naive as I'm probably putting out right now. Let's just put it that way. However, this particular volume takes place in that underground compound, and probably I would say 90% of the novel takes place in that underground compound. And it's one battle after another as this guy Phil is trying to rescue this girl Sandy, and what's going on with the baby. And then there's genetic manipulation going on, kind of like, Nazi warlike camp type of studies that are happening on all these humans. And so this is all discovered while Phil's going into the underground compound to save her or rescue her, or bring her to where he needs to bring her to. So that ends, and of course we're on volume 2. So obviously it ends in a way where there's a volume 2. Let's just put it that way. All right, so there is a main alien vampire, and he's the one who gets addicted to this new blood, and his name is Sanos. And Sanos is the leader of the military faction that is overseeing military operations in this underground compound. So he's the first one to taste new blood, and he's the one who gets addicted. So in volume 2, and case in point, volume 2, his role in volume 2 is like he's pretty much the main character. And what he's trying to do is, now that he has this taste of new blood, he's trying to take over his own people, right, the alien vampires, in volume 2, and at the same time wrestling with all these rebel freedom fighters. So that's what we have in volume 2. And it's borderline horror. All right, there is a lot of blood and gore in this with my gray alien. So there's a lot of telepathy in it, right? So pretty much all the characters using telepathy. And with the gray aliens, they also use telekinesis. And what they do is they use the telekinesis to actually destroy people's like minds, organs on the inside, tear their veins open and everything. So it is definitely has a horror element to it. Although I don't consider it horror, but some people say, "Whoa, that's a little scary." To me, no. To me, it's just good fun. There's a little bit of gore in there. You can't write a book about alien vampires and not have it be gory.
That's true. Like, and the thing as well, like, sci-fi often crosses into body horror a lot of the time, anyway, because you have this kind of thing. I know from some of the reviews that you've had, and people, there's been comparisons to Annihilation, The Matrix, obviously, which both have that body horror aspect to it as well. This sounds like a real heady mix of genres and inspiration, and a little bit of like conspiracy theories thrown in there. Like, I know in the blurb it's mentioned ancient aliens is mentioned as well. So so where did you get the idea for this premise from? Because
it's a wild one. All right, so the premise for the actual alien vampires came from an episode of Buck Rogers. Way back in the early 1980s. There was a space vampire episode, and I was probably 4 at the time, maybe 5, that scared the hell out of me. I remember it to this day. So that's where I got the idea for alien vampires. That's been sitting there in the back of my head since that time. Everything else is a love of, let's see, a combination of Star Wars, right? Definitely Star Wars. I love Empire Strikes Back, even though I don't like the new ones that came out. I'm highly disappointed. But Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars, the originals, I definitely love. 100% The Matrix is in there as an influence. And then it's kind of like, over time, I'm like, all right, so I love Star Wars, Matrix, love Ancient Aliens. Why not start combining these in some sort of pact or whatever? How do you combine all 3 of these? And hence I came out with the Rose. And the reason it's called the Rose is the superpower that exists inside of the novel, right? So, and what it is, the Rose itself is I took it from alchemy. It's a meditation practice used by alchemists. And the whole purpose behind the alchemy meditation is to ward off what they consider energy vampires. Right. So an energy vampire is you walk into a room and you're talking to someone, all of a sudden you feel tired and you feel depleted. They consider that an energy vampire. The person's like sucking your energy off. Right. So you could do this meditation, and the meditation pushes that away. So you're like protected from energy vampires. So I said, that's a cool concept. I could take that, and not only will they be able to do that and protect themselves, so it's a level of protection, but they could also expand it and anything within their sphere, they could like move objects with their mind. They could change chemical structures with their mind. So like this desk that I'm on here, if I needed to, and I would have this ability, I could change this desk into whatever, like daggers or something to throw at somebody.
Yeah,
Right. So that's the ability of the rose. And that's why the title is there.
excellent. And so this is going to be the second book that's out on the 21st of December, the day before the new Matrix film comes out as well, which seems like it's a perfect tie-in. Get the book,
It is.
go watch the next movie there. So
right.
is there more to come in this series?
Yes. All right. So I'm about to start working on volume 3. And then after that, so when I originally sat down to write The Rose, the first story of The Rose, I was writing a trilogy called the Indigo Trials. And this was supposed to be started off as a quick, like short story introduction type of thing. And then it just kept going. It just kept flowing and kept coming. So I decided, all right, so this is going to be at least 3 books. And then what we're going to do is from there, we're going to go over and do the Indigo Trials. All right. And that's going to be a trilogy as well. From there, because the main character, one of the main gurus or whatever you could say, his name is Robin Winter, and he's in volume 1, volume 2. He'll be in volume 3 as well. His story originally was set up. I was about to write a kind of like a dystopian novel, right? So kind of end of the world, you know, he's a doomsday prepper type of person. And so that was a novel I was going to write, and it was going to go into time travel, right? So when I was writing The Rose, he was the perfect character for me to put in there. So he will have his own series down the line where it's time travel, going back in time, and ancient aliens, right? I love ancient aliens, definitely. You know, it's so fascinating, the theories that they come out with, and I love incorporating it into my stories.
Yeah, cool.
You know, and if anyone's an ancient aliens fan, I wonder if you're reading the novel, can you pinpoint what theories I'm including in there?
That'd be interesting. Yeah, that'd be interesting to do. So, and obviously, I mean, this is just one of series that you have. You have a number of different books. Are you always writing? Is that just what you do in your downtime, or is, you know, there's not really downtime, you're writing it? But when you've not got other things to do, is it you're creating something?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I'm always writing a book, right? Always writing some sort of book, whether that book is, you know, I'm writing it on the daily, or you know, formulating it, planning it out, you know, taking notes, stuff like that. There's always a book that's being written. And I love different genres. You know, I grew up on horror and sci-fi and fantasy. Why would I not write a horror book? You know, why would I not write it? You know, a Girl on a Mission is another, that's a urban paranormal type of fantasy novel, right? So that's a novella series. Why would I not want to write that if these are the things that I love? So go ahead and get it done, right? Yeah. So yeah, but they all kind of mix together, you know. With Girl on a Mission, it's part of that is it has a serial killer in that, right? So that kind of has the horror element, but they're all thrillers. That's why I say I write thrillers, right? Yeah. Even my horror novels could be considered thrillers.
Thrillers and different genres. That's the way to do it. So, what does you in so what's next year in 2022? Obviously, you're ending the year with a bang. What's planned in 2022?
Okay, so 2022, we'll see volume 3 will come out probably later, probably about this time next year for volume 3. Girl on a Mission, though, that's going to be a 6-part novella series. All right, so that'll come out, thinking sometime probably I'd say about mid-year, maybe a little bit earlier. This is a novella series. All right. Mm-hmm. And then I have a horror novel coming out. My next horror novel called Jiggly Spot and the Zero Intellect. All right. And that should be coming out probably, I would say, October of 2022.
That's some title.
I love it, right? Jiggly Spot and the Zero Intellect. Jiggly Spot is a 4'9", half human, half warlock, right? Mm-hmm. Orphan who is raised by a species of killer clowns from outer space, who works as a clown in a traveling carnival and also moonlights as a drug dealer and alien pimp. Okay. And what happens is he gets a telepathic call from his friends, minions from Shabolba, stating that something has happened to the summer solstice cannibal celebration that they have every year, and he needs to fix the problem. So once he gets this call, he has to go from New York all the way to California to pull off the summer solstice cannibal celebration without a hitch.
That sounds like that is again something that you got.
It's a wild one.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, good luck with all of those things. Paul,
you.
where can people find you on the internet if they want to look up yourself? And for people that are watching and listening, all of Paul's links will be in the show notes below, so do check them out.
Thank you. All right. Best way to get in touch with me, honestly, go to my website, pdalleva.com. You'll see my newsletter there. Sign up. I send that out about once a month. You get beta reading opportunities, art copies. I mean, book fairs. It's a great way to connect, 100%. And I also have a book club on Facebook. All right. So PD Alleva's reader group and book club. And it's not just my books. I have other authors on there as well. Right now we're reading volume 2. Next month we're reading another author's book and then a few others, because I don't have a book coming out every month. So I like to spread the joy, you know? Yeah. So we have other authors on there as well. So that's a great way to connect too.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Thanks very much for coming on. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And
thank you for having me.
Best of luck with the new book, and I'm sure people are going to love it. It seems like an amazing concept, so best of luck with it.
Thank you very much.
And for everyone who stayed with us till the end, thanks very much, and we'll see you next time.